Let's hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some frickin' money. It's time for Puck It with Jo. Good morning, everyone. Jo here at SportsGrid. It's time for Puck It with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X as well as YouTube. Now we got a loaded day out there on the ice. 9 games to break down. We're going to do the recap again at the end of the show, and we'll jump into those best bets after that recap as well. Now, the teams wearing green did get the win last night. The Minnesota Wild with that empty netter cost us the under 2.5, getting the win over the LA Kings as we had the under 2.5. They scored 3 with the empty netter. And the Toronto Maple Leafs came out and completely dominated in the game versus Calgary, getting that 6-2 win. Now, they were wearing their St. Patty's Day green out there on the ice, and you knew as soon as they hit the ice wearing that team was going to come out nice and strong. The really difference maker in that game was when Calgary scored a goal to tie it up, and it was taken back for an offside call. So if you watch that, the momentum completely shifted, and it felt like Calgary just checked out of the game at that point. So you guys, we have 9 games to go over today. Again, drop what you're liking in the comments. Let's hear what you're parlaying, who you're taking, any players that you're going to be riding on for the anytime goals. The points tonight, of course, we have those as well, and none better to look at the first game here, the Detroit Red Wings versus the Washington Capitals. With Ovi looking to break that record this season, you know, he's always that strong player for the empty netter. At the end of the game, the team really feeding him to get his goals on the board. But against the Red Wings, who have a really weak kill, you would think Ovi has a couple of opportunities during this game to get that anytime goal. Now, looking at the odds right now, the Washington Capitals are a minus 170 favorite, plus 140 here for the Red Wings on FanDuel, and this total sitting at 6.5. Interesting to see a 6.5 between these two teams. I do think the Washington Capitals, with how explosive they have been offensively, if they get on that power play, they could help push this one over that total. So plus 110 to the over 6.5. The under coming in at minus 134. Peter Mrazek versus a Charlie Lindgren should be your goaltending matchup here. Now we look at the Red Wings, and they have excelled on the power play as well. Third best power play in the league, converting 28.3% of the time. But you look at the Washington Capitals, that kill is so strong, killing off 82.4% of those opponents' power plays. And we know it's not unheard of for this team to get a shorty. Ovi to get the shorty on the kill has been seen a couple times this season. So dangerous kill here, dangerous power play as well for the Red Wings, which should lead us to that over in this game. When we look at the Washington Capitals, 22.3% power play conversion for them. And they're going to convert if they get on the power play. Very, very weak kill. The worst kill in the whole league for the Red Wings, coming in at 69.9%. Now, we do see the Red Wings rolling in off a win versus Vegas. They played so strong versus Vegas. They held Vegas to the shutout. They won that 3-0 at home on a Sunday. They're at Vegas again on Saturday, so that is their next game. Surprising to see that they don't have any games in between. And now we are seeing the Washington Capitals coming in off a win versus the San Jose Sharks. Big win for them, covering that puck line, covering any old puck lines you took. It was a 5-1 win. Versus the Flyers at home is their next matchup on Thursday. And then on Saturday, they have the Florida Panthers on deck. So no look ahead here. I do think they step up to take down the Red Wings. This is the Red Wings team sitting 6th in the Atlantic, 1st in the Metro here for the Washington Capitals. Now, the Washington Capitals won the last matchup back on March 7th, 5-2. Big win there. The Red Wings in Washington have struggled as well, only winning for the last 17 meetings here. I do think we see success in the first period for both teams. I like the over 1.5 goals in the first period. It's juicy at minus 142, but both teams to score. If you put a half unit on the over 1.5, both teams to score coming in at plus 154. I think the Capitals can go over their team total. I was actually shocked at the price that we're getting here. Over 3.5 goals coming in at plus 100. I expected to lay juice on the over 3.5. So I do think 4 goals are loading for the Capitals tonight, especially on that power play. You think Ovi will get his goal tonight? Yeah, I do think Ovi will get his goal in this one tonight. The problem is with betting Ovi pregame is that you got to lay the juice. I'm seeing -110, -108 on some books for Ovi for that anytime goal. What I want to do here is maybe I'll miss the opportunity, but going into that second period, if we haven't seen that goal out of Ovi, that point we're going to get Ovechkin for an anytime goal, like around the +130 mark, and that's where I want to hit him. Now, if you wait into that third period and we have the empty netter situation, Scott Wetzel and myself were able to a couple of weeks ago get Ovi for the next goal or for a goal when it was deep into the third, and it was like +600 and +800. So he was able to get better value, but definitely something to watch. If Ovi's sailing through these games, getting these shots, being denied the goal there, and we go into that third, that is where you want to look for Ovi to get that value. Yeah, it's okay. My Flames lost, but you know what? We had the over 5.5 in that one. Yeah, I really would have thought we would have got some overtime for sure. Battle there. Calgary really needing that win. Okay, that's where I'm going with the Washington Capitals versus the Detroit Red Wings. Now, a couple other players you can look at. And if you just want to look at the full game over, I don't blame you. I do think we'll see a couple goals here out of the Red Wings, and the majority of those goals coming up of the Washington Capitals. That's why I like their team total better over the 3.5. But you can look at Tom Wilson here for the Capitals and Dylan Strome and Ovi. I like all three of those players to be impactful in this game tonight. And then to bring Cat there for the Red Wings. Looking at the New York Islanders, they will be taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is going to be interesting. The Penguins are rolling hot. And when was the last time we were able to say the Penguins are the hotter team right now versus anyone? Now, we know the issues with special teams. We also know the Islanders have been just struggling to get those goals on the board with Brock Nelson gone, Matthew Barzal out of the lineup for injury. This team is struggling, and I think they do struggle versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, it's interesting to see they are rolling in, though, as the favorite here on the road, -115 favorite. Do they have the better goaltender? Do they have the better defense? We could debate that absolutely. Sorokin versus Jari, and I do think Sorokin is a solid goaltender, but I'm looking at what the Pittsburgh Penguins are doing right now. This team all of a sudden has come alive outside of that trade deadline, and they're giving the kind of style of hockey that we want to see from the start of the season, because instead of talking about this team being points outside of the wild card spot, we could be talking about this team sitting solid in a playoff spot if they'd been playing this style of hockey. So -104 at home here for the Pittsburgh Penguins as a slight home dog. Total of 5.5. Now -128 to the over. Sorokin versus the Pittsburgh Penguins gives me frets. He's gone 10-5 in 15 games. He's got a 3.16 goals against average and a .907 save percentage. So the save percentage sounds good. But when we look at him in the last 6 games versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, he's allowed 3 or more goals in the last 4. So 2 of those were 3s, 2 of those were 4s, and then 5 of the last 6 games, he's allowed 3 or more goals. In those games, 1 was a 6-pointer as well. So you've seen in the last 6, 2 games where he's allowed 4 goals. 1 game he's allowed 6, and then there was 1 game he limited the Pittsburgh Penguins to 2 goals. But those other ones, he's allowed 3 goals in each, like 3 or more in each, other than the one that he held to 2. So I think here you look at a Pittsburgh Penguins team that it's flying hot. You look at them versus the Devils in that last game at home. They've won their last 4, and they put up 7 goals on the Devils. That's just crazy. Jacob Markstrom is an elite goaltender. So the Pittsburgh Penguins are vibing right now. They scored 12 goals over their last 2 games. How can we fade this team at home with this price that we're getting? Now, I know they're not a solid team, but the Islanders aren't either, and Sorokin has proven that he can't stop a beach ball versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Islanders are rolling in off a win versus the Panthers 4-2 with 4 goals in the third. It was just like complete chaos out there. Like if you stepped away from your TV going into the third period, you would have thought the Florida Panthers were easily going to win that. Saw 4 goals out of the Isles in that third to take the 4-2 win. Now they are home versus Montreal on Thursday. So this is a battle of the Metro. Okay, so 6 in the Metro for the Islanders. They're 2 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins. and 4 points behind the New York Rangers for that last wildcard spot. Pivotal game here, but pivotal for the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. 6 points out of that playoff spot, 2 points behind the Isles. So this is going to be that intense game that you'd all expect, but the intensity for both of these teams has to come from the scoring, because we can't trust either defense and we can't trust either goaltender. I think it's the Pittsburgh Penguins who get the 4-2 win. I think the Penguins on the money line at -104 is a great bet. You'd have to ult their team total because the books are giving you a 2.5. Now, FanDuel doesn't have ult numbers right now, but the over 2.5 is -156. So I won't lay that kind of juice, but if you can ult it to over 3.5 goals, that will be giving you great plus money. It's just I can't get it on FanDuel currently. Now, when we look at who's going to step up, it's got to be Sid the Kid, right? We're going to look at Sidney Crosby here for 2+ points tonight, plus 220 for 2+ points. He had 2 points in 3 of the last 4 games out there on the ice. When we look at him versus the Isles this season, 1 goal and 1 assist over 2 games, okay? Over 3 games. So he has been limited in his career. 89 points versus the Isles, 42 goals and 94 assists out there, and 136 total points in 89 games in his career. So I do think he can get those 2 points. 4th and final meeting between these two of the season. The Islanders won the first 2 meetings. That was 4-3 win, 6-3 win, and the Penguins took the last meeting 3-2. I'm expecting, that 4-2, 5-2 style win here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Crosby has 73 points in 67 games on the season, 23 goals and 50 assists. So Sidney Crosby, 2+ points for me is where I'm going to go. That's coming in at plus 220. Now, Raquel has been great this season, 21 goals, 59 overall points. So you could look at Raquel as well for the assist. I would expect that assist to come in. When we look at the Islanders, Anders Lee has been nice and strong. He would be the player that you need to step up if you're counting on the Isles to get the win. 46 points on the season in 66 games, with 25 of those being via the goal. For me, this is all about the Pittsburgh Penguins to get things done. Okay, you're going to go with Ajari, 19 shutouts, 148 wins. Yeah, I could really see Jari coming in nice and strong in this game and limiting the Isles. I don't trust them to get those goals on the board. I think you could take their team total under 2.5. Mo, I really like it. Let's do the frickin' shutout. You know what? You're right, Mo. Let's take the Penguins money line, Jari to get the shutout. If you guys see a post or odds right now for Jari to get that shutout, throw it out. I really could see it. You can't really trust the Islanders offense with all of the adjustments. And I know they're fighting for so much, but Tristan Jarry absolutely can stand on his head. And Joe, we're freaking taking the Kraken today. Of course we're taking the Kraken. They've dominated in that matchup. So we'll get back to that for sure as we get to that game. No worries on being late. Let's make some freaking money tonight. That is for sure, macaroni. Ovi on pace to break the record in Minnesota. Yeah, he could actually break the record in Minnesota. You can bet where Ovi's going to break the record, how he's going to break the record, if it's going to be an empty netter, if he's going to get it on the power play, if he's going to, all the different ways that he can break that record. So definitely something to look into if you've got a gut feeling on where he's going to break it. And then I think you got to look at the goaltenders that he's going to come up against, and which would be historic. Now, a lot of people saying it should be against the Pittsburgh Penguins, Ovi against Sid, that epic kind of matchup. Sid would be happy for him out there on the ice if he broke the record, but it's going to be pretty cool, you guys, to see history being made with Ovechkin here. Let's move on to the Ottawa Senators taking on the Montreal Canadiens. Now, Ottawa rolling in here hot, -137 on the money line. The Montreal Canadiens at +114. Total is sitting at 5.5, -122 to the over 5.5, and +100 to the under. This is going to come down to goaltending. I really do believe. Could we see the Ottawa Senators fall to the Montreal Canadiens? You guys know I freaking love a home dog, and Montreal seems like a great home dog here. Now, Montreal's +114. They were +115 earlier, so not that much movement in the line. We know the Sens are so hot right now. They've won their last 6. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in their last game out on Saturday, 4-2. They're 7-2-1 in the last 10 games. Now, in that 4-2 win by the Ottawa Senators versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, You did see Omar make the biggest freaking mistake out there on the ice, but can we hold that against him? No. Omar is an elite goaltender, but then we also look at Omar the last time he faced the Montreal Canadiens. It was not pretty, you guys. We saw Montreal win in Ottawa on February 22nd. They got a big win, 5-2. Now, in that game, Sam Montague stood on his head. He saved 25-27 shots on his goal. Omar. This is what's shocking. Omar allowed 5 goals. You guys, it was on 15 freaking shots on his net. Allmark cost us money in that game. I remember that game. Allmark just fell apart. The Montreal Canadiens rolled into Ottawa, getting that 5-2 win with Allmark allowing 5 goals on 15 shots. Okay, so if Allmark comes out like that, Montreal is, dominating this game. And I do think Allmark, with some of his mistakes as of late, I do think Montreal can get their goals on the board. And I think Sam Montague comes out nice and strong. Now, can they break the win streak here for the Ottawa Senators? Well, this Senators team is hot. They're battling, sitting 4th in the Central. Montreal sitting 5th in the Atlantic. Now, Montreal coming off a win versus the Florida Panthers, a team that they really step up against. They're coming off the 3-1 win Saturday, the game prior versus Florida. They were able to get the shutout win. So Florida was in that revenge angle, just like the Ottawa Senators are in this matchup today. The power play is stronger here, definitely, for the Ottawa Senators, and same with the faceoff. They're able to win 52.8% of those faceoff. Their power play, they're winning 23.7%. When we look at Montreal, it's 21.9 for the power play. They're allowing 29 shots on goal per game. So again, this is going to come down to Sam Montague. Can Sam Montague replicate what he did the last time versus the Ottawa Senators? He absolutely has the ability to. His save shots on goal, I've seen a 24.5 out there, and I've seen more 25.5. Sam Montague over 25.5 save shots on goal. I'm still comfortable with. Yes, the last time he he saved 25-27, so going under this number. But Ottawa, with how hot they've been, with how much they've been shooting, I do think he can go over 25.5 save shots on goal. So that will be one of my bets tonight, as soon as we get confirmation that he is going to be in net. Now, we are seeing Montreal at the Islanders on Thursday. And we are seeing the Ottawa Senators finishing up this road trip. Who do they have on deck on Thursday? They have the Colorado Avalanche. So hard one here, but this team is 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They're allowing 28.3 shots on goal, and their kill isn't strong. So if Montreal's to win this is because they're able to convert on that power play, because we don't have a great kill here at the Ottawa Senators, only killing 77.8% of their opponent's power plays, while the Montreal Canadiens are killing 81.4%. That's a huge difference, you guys, out there. I'm going to look at a couple of things in this one. I think you got to be cautious. I do think this is an overtime style game. This game to go to overtime, I believe I got it at plus 320. Let me just double check those lines and where I got this one to go to overtime. It's actually plus 330 for overtime here between Montreal and Ottawa. I do like the overtime bet. I think Montreal will push them into that overtime style game. Ottawa's been rolling hot, and I think Cole Caulfield can score on the power play here for the Montreal Canadiens. So Cole Caulfield for the power play point. I'm going to look at Drake Batherson and Brady Tkachuk for the points, parlay them together as well. So give me the overtime at plus 330. Give me Drake Batherson and Brady Tkachuk for their points parlay together for the Ottawa Senators. Give me Cole Caulfield for the power play point. Sam Montague over his save shots on goal. And if Montreal goes down in this one, I want to take Montreal for the win. The problem is right now, plus 114, plus 115. I don't love what we're getting there. I want a plus 140, a plus 160. With how hot Ottawa's rolling, I want some more value here on that game with that plus money. Yeah, Batherson for the point for sure. Joe, you are so welcome. I'm so happy to have each and every one of you here on the daily with me to talk some freaking pucks. It's just the best thing ever. So, Jeffrey, I hope you have a great day as well. The Rangers, the Kraken, and the Blues in red at plus 663. I can read. That is great. I do think the Kraken and the Blues get the win today. The Rangers should as well versus my Calgary Flames, but Calgary's going down second night of a back-to-back. So that is where I'm going with that game. Let's talk that Calgary game versus the New York Rangers. Penguins shutout. I wish I had the balls to make that bet. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Put a little bit of money and some coffee money on it. Let's get it done. The Calgary Flames versus the New York Rangers. We got Dan Vladar getting the start here for Calgary with Dustin Wolf, allowing those beach balls to go in last night. But, you know, it was one of those games where I didn't expect Calgary to win. Calgary's been playing above expectation this season. I didn't expect them to be fighting for this wild card spot. They're fighting with it between the St. Louis Blues, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Utah Hockey Club for that last wildcard spot in the Western Conference. But you also have the New York Rangers fighting for that last wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference here. So they're sitting fourth in the Metro. They're currently holding on to it, although they're only holding on to it by 1 point. So the New York Rangers absolutely need the win. This is going to come down to this season and how these teams finish. If they get that wild card spot or not will come down to their goaltending. Now, I don't trust Dan Vladar, and I'm sending all my love to Dan Vladar, but he allows those goals to come in. Dustin Wolf has been the backbone of the Calgary Flames this season, and he's put them in the situation where they are sitting in this spot where they could clinch that last wild card spot in the Western Conference. And it's all because of Dustin Wolf. His ability to stop that puck, and I know he didn't last night, but I tell you guys, he is going to be a name of the future. You want to take note of Dustin Wolf. He could take the Calder this season, and you're going to get great plus money. To take the Calder, he would have to take them to the playoffs, and we'd have to see Celebrini really fall off, and Lane Hudson, they're sitting above them. But Dustin Wolf, you definitely don't want to sleep on him. He's going to have a fantastic career as long as he stays healthy. Now, for the New York Rangers, it's Igor Shesterkin who has to be the backbone of this team. Igor Shesterkin hasn't looked like his Vezina Trophy years this season, but if he can get back to that style of play, and we've seen it over glimpses this season where it's like no one can take on Igor. Igor is just a force between the pipes, but he has to look constantly like that, and the New York Rangers will take that last wild card spot. So it's going to come down to that. In tonight's battle, though, we got Dan Vladar versus Igor Shesterkin. I do give the upper edge to the New York Rangers. Calgary's taking too many penalties, and it's going to cost them in this game. We look at Michael Backlund not in the lineup here for Calgary. Without Backs in the lineup, that is one of their best power play killers out there on the ice. So they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle to stop the New York Rangers from converting on that power play tonight. Now the Rangers are off that tight battle versus the Edmonton Oilers. They lost that one on Sunday 3-1. And then Calgary on the second night of back-to-back. If Calgary is to make a push in this game, it would be in the first period. I would look at both teams to score in the first period. Both teams so hungry here to be able to get it done. Over 1.5 in that first period at -128. I'd rather take that than both teams to score, but I do expect it to come out as both teams. And I think this is kind of worth an overtime shot here. Calgary's going to be hungry. The Rangers are going to be hungry. It's +340 for the overtime. And when these teams are battling it out so hard for a wild card spot, I do think those overtime bets are definitely worth the look. Sorry, you guys. I got a tickle in my throat today. Where we're looking for players. Now, I love storylines, you guys, in my betting. It's one of my favorite angles to look at. Always trying to stay on top of those storylines and look at those players who have a beef, have something to play for. You got Connor Zary coming back from suspension in this game. I do think Connor Zary comes out nice and strong for the Calgary Flames tonight. He played so undisciplined in that game where he got suspended for that high hit to the head. Look for Connor Zary to get a point on the board. But Jonathan Huberdeau and Nazem Kadri really have to step up. I would think Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau get a point as well. I'll parlay those two guys for the point. I'll leave Zary out of it, but I will take Connor Zary for a point separately. And then when we look at the New York Rangers, I expect them with Backlund out of the lineup for Calgary to convert on that power play. Chris Kreider has 6 power play goals on the season. Chris Kreider for the power play point tonight coming in at +330. Now, JT Miller has been so highly impactful since coming back to the New York Rangers. 18 points in 18 games for New York this season. And I do think JT Miller can get that power play point on the board as well. He's coming in at +280. So JT Miller for the power play point for the Rangers, Chris Kreider for the power play point for the Rangers, and then Huberdeau and Kadri parlayed for a point for Calgary, and Connor Zary for the point separately for Calgary as well. It should be a good game, you guys, for sure. Let me know what you're liking in this one. I got a hair on my face. Apologies for that. Yeah, JT Miller should be able to get the goal tonight, Blake. I love it. The goal or the power play point I would hit on for him. Again, 18 points in 18 games here for the New York Rangers. He's definitely feeling back at home for this team. Let's take on the St. Louis Blues, taking on the Nashville Predators. The Blues fighting for that Western Conference spot. And I think this total is just way too low. You guys, we got a total of 5.5, and how high can we take this and still cash those bets is my biggest question of this game. 6.5, 7.5, hell, 8.5. I might even take it all the way up to 8.5. You guys, I'm looking for offensive production in this one. Nashville, over the last couple of games out there on the road, locked down on the defensive side like we've never seen before. And this team is just prime for a team to come in and light the lamp constantly on them. And then the St. Louis Blues, we know this team can light the lamp, but Jordan Binnington, he came out so strong out of the break, but I do think it might be Joel Hofer. We got to see on goaltending matchups, but they'll let in a couple. I think there's a couple goals coming for the Preds. This team has been, playing better. Stamkos, Marchessault, you've got playmakers of Forsberg on the Predators, but I am looking for the Blues. Jake Neighbors, Robert Thomas, Holloway to just come out so strong, light that freaking lamp over and over and over again. So we've got the Blues at -114, the Nashville Predators at -105, the total of 5.5, -115 to the over. So let's ult it. I'm taking it all the way up to over 7.5 goals at +340. I think the Blues get 6 themselves, and I'm counting on the Preds to get 2. So we also have to know last season what the Predators were able to do versus the St. Louis Blues. 3 games versus the Blues last season. The Predators put up 20 goals in 3 games versus the Blues. Okay, so terrible performance by the defense and goaltending of the Blues last season versus the Preds. Elite offensive production. Now, we've seen the Predators get up fast in these games, and I know they're coming off tight games. They lost that last game on the road to the LA Kings 1-0, but that defense cannot play at that level that they played out there on the road. First game home off a road trip, 3-game road trip, in which their defense played better than they played all season. I can't see it happening here again tonight. Now, the St. Louis Blues scored 3 or more goals in 6 of the last 7 games, played out there on the road. So they've been acquiring these goals on the road. And the last time these teams faced up was back in December, and we saw the St. Louis Blues get a 7-4 win. 8, 9, 10, 11. I count on my fingers. 11 goals out there. I know 7 plus 3 is 10 plus 1 more is 11. But you guys, sometimes I just like to make sure I'm not throwing out the wrong number. So the finger counting, it comes into play. 11 goals in their last matchup. Over 7.5. Can we take it over 8.5? Let's just look at those old totals again. I went 7.5. But now I'm feeling like we could really keep going. So the over 6.5, the 5.5 is your baseline. That's coming in at -118. What about a quarter unit, you guys? A quarter unit on the over 5.5, a quarter unit on the over 6.5, a quarter unit on the over 7.5, and a quarter unit on the over 8.5 coming in at +520. That is where I'll stop at the over 8.5. We need a 5-4 style game for that to hit, or a 7-3, 7-2 game. That still puts us at 9. So that is where I would look. I do think the St. Louis Blues light that freaking lamp tonight. If this game finishes 2-1, I'm going to be laughing at myself, and you guys can all laugh at me as well. But I do think this is where we're getting those goals. So because I think we're getting the goals in this one, let's look at anytime goal scorers and who I would really count on to be able to light the lamp. Now, Forsberg for the Predators is +160 and Stamkos at +210. Those are your top 2 favorite guys to get the goals on the board. I would go further down. Ryan O'Reilly for the anytime goal coming in at +310 for the Nashville Predators. I'll take a shot on him. Now, for the St. Louis Blues, the top 3 guys are Kyrou at +230, Robert Thomas at +240, and Dylan Holloway at +240. I am take a shot on Dylan Holloway at +240, and then Jake Neighbors at +340. I do think he's so scrappy and grindy in front of the net. I absolutely love what we see out of him. So give me Jake Neighbors. If you want to go far down the list, we're going to see the goals on the bottom lines there, I think, as well. So I don't know. Cam Fowler there for the St. Louis Blues is +550. don't hate that look. Ryan Sutter all the way down there for the Blues at plus 1,100. I do think we get that third, fourth line scoring for this team. So that's going to be a great matchup, you guys. Let me know if you like that to the under and if you think I'm just crazy this morning. Jonathan Marchessault for the goal. I love it. Did you parlay the Cup of Joe yesterday, Larry? I love to hear that you parlay. Oh, yeah, because you parlayed the Cup of Joe. The only one you couldn't put in the parlay was the first half for the Chicago Bulls plus the 4.5, correct? Yeah, it should be a good one. Yeah, Jonathan Marchessault for the Predators. It's a great look. He should be able to score in this one. Okay. Let's move on to the next game. I could talk about this one forever. You could take the Blues team total. You could take the Blues on the money line. I think they walk away with the win, fifth in the Central battle here. But it feels kind of like a coin flip game. I just think those goals are coming, and that's where I like to go. The Anaheim Ducks and the Dallas Stars. The puck dropping on this one at 8 o'clock Eastern. The Anaheim Ducks are a huge underdog, almost a $3 dog, plus 290. When you hear their record on the puck line versus the Dallas Stars, you might want to take them plus 1.5 at plus 118. The Dallas Stars, far, far better team. Minus 375, not worth that on that money line. I wouldn't even throw it into a parlay. It would terrify me to put that into a parlay. Minus 1.5 on that puck line, no value at minus 144. You got a total 6.5. Juice is to the under. Now we are seeing Dostal versus Ottinger as your expected goaltending. We've got the Anaheim Ducks off a loss to the St. Louis Blues, in which the Blues put up 7 goals and the Ducks only put up 2. They're at the Predators on Thursday, sitting 6th in the Pacific. The last time these teams matched up, the Ducks did get the win, 2-1. Okay, so we also look at the last 10. The Ducks have gone 7-3 on the puck line versus the Dallas Stars. Now, here is the scary thing for the Dallas Stars. Okay, it's Ottinger expected. We'll see if we see him or Casey DeSmith. They've lost their last 2. They lost to the Avs on Sunday in an overtime loss, a really hard game. This is only Tuesday. The overtime loss was 4-3. It was a hard-hitting game out there on the ice. These players will be feeling it today after that Sunday game. Who do they have ahead of them? On Thursday, they have the Tampa Bay Lightning. This team sitting second in the Central. They're going to be looking ahead to the matchup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Who cares about the Anaheim Ducks? And yes, they care about their points. They care about winning this game. But off a hard game with a look ahead. You guys know when I look at hockey, when I look at betting, scheduling means everything to me. I think more people have to weigh it into account. And now, could they come out and just pick up their points and say, we need these points? Absolutely. Sitting second in the Central here, of course, they want to get those points on the board, but returning home from 4 games out on the road off of that hard game, I just can't look anyway at the Dallas Stars unless I want to look at like some player props, like Wyatt Johnson, Mikko Rantanen for their points. Okay, I can get behind that because we know Dostal can allow those goals to come in. He played really solid the last time versus the Stars. So I think you just look at the Ducks plus 1.5 at plus 115 on that puck line. If the Stars go up, though, is where I want to bet it. You guys, I don't want to jump in with 2 feet on the Ducks to start this game. I want to see the Stars go up and then come back in on the Ducks. Now, are we risking the fact that the Stars could come out and win this 2-0? Absolutely, we are. But the Ducks have proven they can keep these tight games here. You could look at the under, as I do think Dostal's going to play strong, and I think the Stars returning home, if they get up in this game, they're going to lock down on that defensive side. The scary thing is about this total, this should be a 5.5. Why are we getting a 6.5 in this one? What do the books know? It's plus 106 to the over, minus 130 to the under, 6.5. This should be a solid 5.5. Okay, so I don't like this total. It smells fishy out there, but I do think it's a 2-1, 3-2 style game, keeping us under our total of 5.5. So 6.5 seems like a gift, and when it seems like a gift, the books stay off the game. Yeah, that's my best advice. Just stay off the game. Unless you think Dallas is going to come out and win this 3-0, I would just stay off the game. So other than the Ducks, live betting them plus 1.5. Okay. Yeah, I will look at Mikko Rantanen and Wyatt Johnson for a point parlay together. Troy Terry for a point tonight, and then be done with that game. The Seattle Kraken and the Chicago Blackhawks is our next game. Now, Joe, I know you're excited to see your Seattle Kraken get a win, and they should be able to get the win here. The Kraken have dominated the Chicago Blackhawks. They have won 7 of their last 10 meetings, and these teams have split on the season 1-1. Seattle getting the first win. This Chicago Blackhawks winning the last one 3-1. I'm a little concerned about what we're going to see out of Connor Bedard in this one. Connor Bedard in his last 2 games has had a 10-minute misconduct in both, and I'm still trying to get to the root of why he got those 10-minute misconducts in Vancouver. It was apparent that Vancouver was targeting him. They were going after him hard, and then he ends up with a 10-minute misconduct. I still don't understand what the hell is happening with Connor Bedard out there on the ice. Like I said in the last show, it could be he's just that mouthy kid that us as parents think is just a great kid. He comes off so nice to the press, to the media, and then behind the scenes, he's just a jerk. So maybe that's what Connor Bedard is going through right now. We know, I don't think overall he's that way as a person, but I think maybe frustration is just getting the better of him as he expected so much more out of himself, and especially in Vancouver. That was his second return back home to Vancouver. You know, that first game, he joked about it. He paid to play in Vancouver because last season when we saw Chicago come to Vancouver, he was hurt, so he didn't get to play. So the last matchup in Vancouver, we did see him with all of his friends, all of his family there. He had like 50-something people there, and I'm sure it was the same in that last game to the Vancouver Canucks, which they lost 6-2, and he got that 10-minute misconduct again out there on the ice. So I'm sure it's frustration just getting under his collar, which I think is a thing that's going to pass. You know, he's in his second season here. He's a young kid out there on the ice, and he's put up with a hell of a lot. Like, you think about, he's put up with the rumors of Corey Perry, sleeping with his mom. Like, there's so many things that this kid has had to deal with that you got to say, okay, maybe he just hit a little bit of a breaking point. He's coming back home. Are we going to see Connor Bedard get on the board tonight? And I do think Connor Bedard has to compose himself. Can he score in Joey Daccord? He could. He could come out and get the goal, but I think this is a competitive back and forth battle. So the end of my story, the end of my rambling is I do think both of these teams want to finish on a high note. We could see an overtime game here. Either way, I think the Kraken either win in reg or they win in overtime. So it is a play on the Seattle Kraken for me. The overtime bet coming in at plus 320. I do think, even though first game home, Chicago losing their last 4, I think their coach will really sit them down and go, okay, come on, let's get back on track. Teravainen has been really good. Tyler Bertuzzi as well. So look for those older players to try to get Connor Bedard just kind of like settled out there on the ice and for him to come out nice and strong. But both these teams want to finish the season strong. So I would look here at, especially with Seattle, first game of a road trip, off the loss to the Winnipeg Jets in an overtime loss, that they stay competitive in this game. So I think it's a competitive one. Vinny, good morning. I hope your morning is starting off great. Okay, let's look at the next game. The Utah Hockey Club taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Utah is a plus 138 dog, and sign me up all day long. Who can trust the Edmonton Oilers? This price for the Edmonton Oilers is minus 166. Total of 6.5, minus 104 to the over, minus 118 to the under. Vermelka here for Utah versus Skinner for the Edmonton Oilers. Now we are seeing Utah off a win versus Vancouver 3-1. I faded them in that game versus Vancouver. Vancouver has so much more to play for, but Utah has snuck their way into the talks of a wild card spot with the St. Louis Blues, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Calgary Flames. And this team is going to bring it. Clayton Keller has been so strong for them, and I do think Clayton Keller, a difference maker on the ice, can score on Stuart Skinner. Now, we are seeing this being the last game of the road trip. They're home versus the Sabres in their next game on Thursday, and this is the first game home for the Edmonton Oilers. You know, an automatic fade. They beat the Rangers on Sunday, which is a freaking hard game, 3-1. So physical out there for the Edmonton Oilers. Now they're coming home off that 4-game road trip. They need to pick up the points. Yes, they're sitting second in the Pacific, but they went 2-2 on that road trip. And again, like other teams we've looked at today, like the Dallas Stars, coming off a brutal game. And who is on deck? We have the Winnipeg Jets on deck on Thursday. I think this is such a look ahead here for the Edmonton Oilers in this game. I think Utah will get the win. I'm taking Utah plus 134. I can't trust Edmonton right now. Now, the last time these teams played back in December, we did see the Oilers get a 4-1 win. Leon Draisaitl, if you don't want to take a side because you want to back the Oilers in some capacity, I'd look at Leon Draisaitl for the anytime goal. He's been absolutely fantastic out there on the ice. I do think he gets a goal on the board. I look at Clayton Keller for the goal for Utah, and then you can just not take a side and just look for those two players to come out impactful. You can parlay them. There's nothing to say that you can't parlay guys on other teams for their points. I do think they both get those points on the board today. So you could look at Clayton Keller and Leon Draisaitl for a point together. I love parlaying line mates, so that is another way to go. Let's look at the last game, you guys. We have the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Vancouver Canucks. I don't think Vancouver scores in this one, and if Vancouver can't score, they're not beating the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets, though, are a minus 164 favorite here on the road. That is so much freaking juice, you guys. We got to find a way to make some money in this game betting it, because there's no way in hell. Like, you can't force me to lay minus 164 on any team, especially in hockey where puck luck comes into play. And the Winnipeg Jets sitting nice and cozy in their spot right now, and Vancouver trying to dig deep. Vancouver, though, on the road or at home, I don't trust. I trust them more out there on the road. They're plus 136 as a home dog, and I can't get behind them because of Connor Hellebuyck in goal. I've got a great stat for you on Vancouver when they score less than 3 goals or when they score 3 or more goals. So I'll give you that in 1 second. About total sitting at 5.5, minus 140 to the under. Winnipeg Jets are dangerous, though. You could see the Winnipeg Jets putting up enough goals to take this one to the over. So the full game, I'm not touching, but I will take Vancouver's team total. We have Connor Hellebuyck expected here for the Winnipeg Jets. And as long as it's Connor Hellebuyck in net tonight, my play is Vancouver under 2.5 goals at minus 124. Vancouver, when they score at least 3 goals in a game, they've gone 27, 6, and 6 in those games. So when they can get 3 or more goals, they are winning these games 27, 6, and 6, but they're going to struggle. Connor Hellebuyck has way too good a numbers to allow the Vancouver Canucks to put up 3 goals. He's 39, 9, and 3 with a 1.99 goals against average and a 927 save percentage. I can't count on Vancouver to score that many goals, so I can't count on them to get the win here. Kevin Lankinen expected here for the Vancouver Canucks. He's 23, 13, and 7 on the season, 2.54 goals against average, and a 904 save percentage. We have seen Vancouver score 3 or less goals in 8 of their last 10. The defense has been so solid here for the Winnipeg Jets, but it has been goaltending that's just been the next level up. Now, the Winnipeg Jets have won their last 3. They're coming off a battle with the Seattle Kraken that shouldn't have been so much of a battle. So I do think that will be in the back of their minds that they had to go to overtime versus the Kraken on Sunday to get that 3-2 win. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. They're at the Oilers on Thursday. So is this a look ahead to the Oilers on Thursday? No, because they have to first get past this team sitting 4th in the Pacific. They know that Vancouver can be dangerous if they allow them to be. So Vancouver holds that final wildcard spot going into today's matchup. They're battling again with Calgary, Utah, and St. Louis. So the Jets have won also 6 of the last 7 meetings between these two teams. So I do think it's the Winnipeg Jets, but how are we going to bet them? Hard to find value. If you want to look at Winnipeg first period puck line, I don't hate it. Vancouver's going to come out really solid, but I do think Connor Hellebuyck can stand on his head in the first period. So first period Winnipeg Jets minus a half on the puck line. I don't hate. Kyle Connor has 65 points, 36 goals, 49 assists. Mark Scheifele, 75 points, 35 goals, 40 assists. I'd look at both of those guys parlayed together for a point tonight. They're going to be able to convert on that power play. And then when we look at the Vancouver Canucks, Quinn Hughes leading this team with 63 points, 16 goals, 47 assists. Pedersen coming in with 42 points, 15 goals, 27. Garland right behind at 41 points, 17 goals, and 24. And DeBrusk, 38 points, 23 goals and 15 assists. I look at Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson to step up in this game for their points, but I do think they go under 2.5 goals. So be very cautious with taking anyone for their points. It would be Kyle Connor or Mark Scheifele there for the power play points for the Winnipeg Jets. Do you take the Oilers first period over and the Kraken first period over? So the Oilers first period over, I do think is a solid look there versus Utah. I expect both of those teams to get on the board right away. The first period over 1.5 goals and both teams to score between Utah and Edmonton is an actual real solid look in this matchup because Edmonton loves to come out, play that run and gun hockey. I won't be shocked if Leon Draisaitl and Clayton Keller come out and score right away in this game. I do think it's a back and forth battle in that first period. If Edmonton goes out the first period 2-1, they're going to try to lock down on that defensive side, which at that point you could look at Utah being able to come back because this team never stops fighting in these games, but I could see it being a 2-1. So I do like that. The Seattle Kraken and the Chicago Blackhawks. Looking at this one to go over in the first period, I would think so here, but you look at some of these games, Chicago has either started off fast or started off hot. So I don't love it as much as the Edmonton-Utah game. I'd look at the Edmonton-Utah game for the over and both teams to score in the first period before I looked at the Seattle Kraken and the Chicago Blackhawks. So you guys, that's where we're going with these games. 45 minutes in, we're going to get into that recap and then we'll talk about my best bets. I'm really loving the St. Louis Blues today for that game to go to the over. That's probably my favorite bet of the day. And then the Pittsburgh Penguins to walk away with a big win. So those are the two we got circled, but let's jump into that recap and then we'll talk more about those best bets. The Detroit Red Wings taking on the Washington Capitals here. I do think this one starts off nice and hot. I'd look at the first period over 1.5 goals at -142 and both teams to score in the first period at +152. Half unit on each of those. Capitals team total over 3.5. I do think they get there. That's coming in at +100. OV live bet. If we see OV go into that second period or third period without a goal, the books are going to take it from, -110 for him to get the anytime goal to plus money. I want OV at plus money. So watch for those live numbers for Ovechkin. I do think he gets on the board tonight. Tom Wilson and Dylan Strome, I think, get a point as well, parlayed together for the Washington Capitals. The New York Islanders versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hell, let's take the Pittsburgh Penguins for the shutout. Tristan Jarry to record the shutout. If you want to jump on it, I do think it's a really solid way. Sorokin allows the Pittsburgh Penguins to score, and the Pittsburgh Penguins have been just dominating as of late. I'm so excited to be able to say that. I do think they come out and win this one. 4-0 would give us a shutout. 4-1, we would lose that shutout. But I think the Penguins are the right side. I think they can go over their total of 3.5. That's coming in as an old number. The 2.5's -156. Again, I can't get the 3.5 on FanDuel currently. If you can get over 3.5 goals for the Pittsburgh Penguins, I would jump all over it. Give me Sidney Crosby, Sid the Kid, for 2+ points here, coming in at +220. I like Raquel for the point as well in this matchup. Sidney Crosby has great numbers versus the Islanders in his career. He's been playing strong, and I think he pushes his team to victory tonight. The Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. Give me Sam Montague over 25.5 save shots on goal. I do think this comes down to goaltending, and I can't trust Omar with how he played the last time versus Montreal. I do think, though, I'm not getting enough value here on the Montreal Canadiens on the money line. I want to see in this one what we end up seeing those lines close at, for one, and then if Ottawa goes up first, getting in on Montreal to come back, because I think it's a highly competitive game out there. I'm going to take the player props as my favorite bet in this one. I'm going to look Sam Montague for over 25.5, but Batherson and Brady Tkachuk to both get on the board tonight. I take them for their point parlay, and then Cole Caulfield for the power play point in this game. The Calgary Flames versus the New York Rangers. Calgary takes way too many penalties, and the Rangers are going to be able to score on their power play tonight. Calgary on the second night of a back-to-back. I could see this being a hot first period. Both teams getting on the board over 1.5 in the first period at -128. You could look at both teams to score. I like the over 1.5 a lot better. I do think Calgary could push this one to OT, but the Rangers probably win in overtime. So the overtime bet at +340. I'll look at Conor Zary for a point tonight, coming back from suspension for Calgary. Chris Kreider and JT Miller for the power play points for the New York Rangers. The St. Louis Blues versus the Nashville Predators, favorite game of the night. If St. Louis doesn't put up 7 goals themselves, I'm going to be shaking my head. Give me the game over 5.5 for a quarter of a unit, over 6.5 goals for a quarter of a unit, over 7.5 goals at plus 340 for a quarter of a unit, and over 8.5 goals for a quarter of a unit at plus 520. I think those goals are racking in tonight. Last season, the Predators in 3 games put 20 goals on the St. Louis Blues. And the Blues have been scoring out here on the road and won the last matchup 7-4. That gave us 11 goals, you guys. So I do think we're going to see the goals, and then more goals tonight. Jake Neighbors is where I will look for the St. Louis Blues. The Nashville Predators, I do think Jonathan Montembeault, Steven Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg all have the opportunity of scoring. Robert Thomas Kyrou as well for the Blues. So this is going to be a fun one if you like goals. Fingers crossed, at least. The Anaheim Ducks versus the Dallas Stars. I'm going to fade. I've decided I'm going to fade these favorites that are coming in terrible scheduling spots. We have Dallas here, almost a $4 favorite. They're off a really hard overtime loss to the Colorado Avalanche. Yes, they want to get back in the win column, but they've got the Lightning on deck, and that game means so much more. Returning home from a 4-game road trip. Give me the Anaheim Ducks plus 1.5 at plus 115 with a sprinkle on the money line. They're 7-3 in the last 10 versus the Dallas Stars on that puck line. If you want a player for the Ducks, it's Troy Terry. A player for the Stars, it's Mikko Rantanen. The Seattle Kraken and the Chicago Blackhawks. I think this is a game where we're going to see what Connor Bedard is made of. He needs to get his attitude under control, come out nice and strong, and get going in this game. Joey Decord versus Spencer Knight. I think we got a competitive one here. Seattle walks away with the win, but I don't think it's easy. I'm going to take the overtime bet at plus 320, or you could just look at the Seattle Kraken to get the win. I'm not sure if they get it in reg, and right now it's minus 156 on the money line, so it'd be a live bet if Chicago goes up first for the Seattle Kraken to come back and get the win. The Utah Hockey Club and the Edmonton Oilers. Again, I'm going to fade the Edmonton Oilers because of the scheduling spot. First game home off a road trip. They're off that win versus the Rangers 3-1 out there on the road, and they have the Winnipeg Jets on deck on Thursday. Give me the Utah Hockey Club straight up on the money line. Give me Clayton Keller for the power play point tonight, the anytime goal for Clayton Keller tonight, and then Leon Draisaitl for the anytime goal for the Edmonton Oilers. The Winnipeg Jets and the Vancouver Canucks. This is all about Winnipeg, but I had to find a way to get some value here. Give me Vancouver under 2.5 goals. I don't think they get this past Connor Hellebuyck tonight. That's coming in at minus 124. I look at Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele parlayed together for the Winnipeg Jets for their points. If you really want someone from Vancouver, it's Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson. But again, those goals, those points are going to be really hard to come by tonight for sure. David, I'm so glad you got Jasper Bratt for that goal yesterday. It was a nice payday on him. Okay, best bets. Let's get to the best bets, you guys. I think Vancouver under 2.5 goals. I love it. I love the St. Louis Blues and the Nashville Predators over 5.5, ulted all the way up to over 7.5. When we start to get over 8.5, it's a little dicey, but at plus 520, when I'm putting a quarter unit on that ladder, I'm happy to do it. So hopefully we can cash all of those, but it is the St. Louis Blues, Nashville Predators over 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, and 8.5 quarter unit on all of them. I do think if you just fade Edmonton and Dallas, one of them's losing tonight. The Ducks, it's going to be harder for them to get the win, but I do think Utah is able to get the win. So I love that. And then which other one do I love for my best bet? It's the Penguins. It's the Penguins all day to get the win. Straight up on the money line for the Pittsburgh Penguins, minus 104 versus the Islanders. They have every opportunity. They're rolling hot right now. So you guys, those are the games for today. John, I'm doing okay. Thank you so much for your kind messages. Always, it's been a really hard week. That is for sure. But you guys, all the best in all your bets. Let's make some freaking money out there on the ice tonight. 9 games, plenty of opportunities. Drop below what you're liking out there on the ice. If you've got a player, if you got a parlay, if you got a goalie for that shutout, let me know. Don't forget about Sam Montague, over 25.5 safe shots for the Montreal Canadiens. Not sure if I threw that out or not in the recap, but you guys, it's going to be a great day. Let's get this done. I'll see you tomorrow, noon Eastern. Stay tuned for my Cup of Joe. It was freaking hot yesterday. Let's have another hot one today, and the Madden Quickie on the SportsGrid app as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Oh, Robertson, Hintz, and Rantanen. I like it. Jason Robinson, Rupe Hintz, and Mikko Rantanen there for their point tonight. It's a great way to look. Those guys rolling on those lines together. So all the best in all of your bets, you guys. Let's make some freaking money.
Hit some anytime goal scorers as well.